Hello, this is our presentation regarding art, a work in progress. So our contents page. Logline is our documentary which is summarized without revealing too much. Our synopsis, that's going to focus on the different types of documentaries there are and how we are going to try to apply to these different types. Our visual approach is going to be focusing on how we intend to make our documentary aesthetically pleasing, what imagery we're going to be using, how is this going to be in reference to the different art styles. Participants, that's going to revolve around the people who we're going to be interviewing in a documentary. How did they fit within our documentary within the different art forms, and how also their emotions tied to the art. References is going to be about our sources of inspiration and how we'll continue to refer back to these references throughout our documentary. Our target audience is going to be about who this documentary applies to and how we're going to aim to make sure that we hit the nail on the head. Distribution naturally is going to focus on how we decide to distribute this documentary, on what apps we're going to use, how we're going to push the promotion as such. Our impact strategy will focus on what we aim to do with this documentary. Do we aim to inform? Do we aim to entertain? And how we're going to go about doing that. Our artist statement ties back to our visual approach as how is our documentary going to look? How are we going to portray certain things, such as the imagery and the emotions that's going to be portrayed with certain arts, for example, graffiti, and how it's negatively portrayed. And our creative team bias is just going to highlight each of our strengths and our roles throughout this entire project. Art of the past, art of the present, and art yet to come. Here, we will explore what art is and its origins, all while making a film for you to enjoy. We will delve deeper and form the connections between the various art forms and make you understand what it means to each individual and how they think it will continue to change in the near future.
So the synopsis of our documentary is that it's an expository documentary that explores the story of art as a concept throughout history. The programme follows the lives of 3 London-based artists who share their experiences with art and how it's impacted their lives. A graduate of art history investigates the styles and societal value of art in the past and how that's come to shape the foundation that art builds upon today. A graffiti artist shares what inspires modern art and how the motivations of producing and distributing art have changed alongside the world. We also have a games designer who gives their perspective on the direction of the progression of art and technology, and they also give insight into art's future roles in society and politics. Our documentary will be split into 3 segments, past, present and future. Each segment will zoom in on different parts of history of art and comment on how its value and purposes have changed with time, ultimately exploring the true significance of human art.
For the visual approach, I want to employ a very creative visual approach for this documentary because I think it suits the subject matter. The documentary is about art, and I would like it to emphasise the different forms art can take by being an art form itself. An example of how I would like to do this is when we are talking about the history of art at the start of the documentary. I want to create a montage of art throughout history, including traditional as well as non-traditional art, sort of laying over each other like stickers. I think this will work really well as an introduction to the documentary. It would also show the audience how much art has been a part of human history and how much it has changed over the years. Because of this artistic approach, the documentary will draw on many aspects of the poetic documentary form. However, the main form of documentary it will emulate is observational. This documentary will also make great use of colour to further push the idea of it being an art form. The colours will be very bright and vibrant, and I think this will help create a more artistic feel to the documentary. When talking about graffiti, I want to contrast this with sort of dark colour grading to add a bit more narrative and to kind of compare the two traditional and non-traditional types of art we are looking at. For the visual approach, I want to employ a very creative visual approach for this documentary because I think it suits the subject matter. The documentary is about art, and I would like it to emphasise the different forms art can take by being an art form itself. An example of how I would like to do this is when we are talking about the history of art at the start of the documentary. I want to create a montage of art throughout history, including traditional as well as non-traditional art, sort of laying over each other like stickers. I think this will work really well as an introduction to the documentary. It will also show the audience how much art has been a part of human history and how much it has changed over the years. Because of this artistic approach, the documentary will draw on many aspects of the poetic documentary form. However, the main form of documentary it will emulate is observational. This documentary will also make great use of colour to further push the idea of it being an art form. The colours will be very bright and vibrant, and I think this will help create a more artistic feel to the documentary. When talking about graffiti, I want to contrast this with sort of dark colour grading to add a bit more narrative and to kind of compare the two traditional and non-traditional types of art we are looking at. So for our documentary, there will be three main participants. The first one is Lewis Gates, a friend of mine. He's an aspiring graffiti artist in London. And although he's not that well known within the graffiti world, he does have a deep understanding of graffiti culture. And he will be looking at the future of graffiti and talking about the struggle between vandal versus artist that graffiti artists often face. The second one is Ginebra. She is an international art history graduate, and she'll be talking more about the traditional side of art, and the historical importance of art and the evolution it has gone through. And then she'll be applying that knowledge to how she personally thinks the future looks for the art world. Our last participant is Troy St. Smith. He is a game designer and will be talking more about the future of art, as he is quite well versed in electronic forms of art, and so we'll be talking about how he thinks that will evolve in the future.
So for the references, we made the decision to pick 5 of these films and documentaries as it would essentially have an influence on our ideal. Loving Vincent is another great example of that, as it is also animated and contains artistic themes and designs that we are thinking to explore. So in terms of the target audience for our documentary, although art is a broad topic and it generally applies to people of all ages, for our upcoming project, we just wanted to mainly focus on a younger audience, people between the ages of 15 to 30, as it would be suitable.
Distribution. Social media such as Snapchat and Instagram will be used to promote the trailer. Containing links to the full documentary will be free. Naturally, TikTok will be the bulk of the distribution, as majority of users fall between ages 13 to 60, and our target audience ranges from 16 and above. Making 15 to 20 second clips will help promote the trailer, all while including many viral hashtags, using the algorithm to our favour. YouTube will be the primary source of access, as it remains one of the most used apps throughout all generations. Vimeo is also a second option for streaming services, as it's free of charge and it grants easy access.
The aim of this documentary is to inform people in general about the history of art and how it developed throughout that time. It also serves as an opportunity to consider the future of art. For example, the way art is produced, the motivations behind someone producing art, and the purpose or usefulness of an art in society. Like most documentaries, the main aim is to inform or educate, so this project is mostly targeted at anyone who is not familiar with the subject or the details we're going to explore within the program. But for our documentary, we want to explore how our topic impacts people's lives. Since our chosen topic is art, we will naturally be approaching artists who can share their perspective on the topic and how it actually affects their life in different ways. For example, the fact that street art and graffiti can be regulated by the law. Since we aim to present these different artistic lifestyles to the audience, we want to make the audience think about how significant art really is in our daily lives, and to consider the direction in which this concept is moving in the future. Many people often believe that robots and machines could never replace artists, because they don't have the physical capability or have complex enough thought to be able to be creative. However, with the introduction of AI art bots, this is seemingly no longer the case. At this point, we want to point out that aside from the target audience, we want to acknowledge who benefits from the production of this documentary, who this documentary actually serves. That would be artists themselves. By raising awareness about the direction art is moving in, this would hopefully lead to people reconsidering their thoughts on the art industry and technological advancements, and perhaps becoming more empathetic towards artists. Making people aware of the significance of art made by people is the impact we want to make from this documentary.
What first led me to this story was an interest in graffiti. I have a friend who does graffiti, and I've always been fascinated by graffiti. And he'd be a participant that's easy to access. However, when we were investigating the potential narrative, we couldn't really think of a narrative, enough of a narrative to make a whole documentary on graffiti. So we thought about doing a documentary on the vandal versus artist aspect of graffiti. However, as a group, we kind of thought we wanted to open this up to other forms of art and sort of interview artists about their personal experience with art. And then we thought of the idea to include the future of art and see what they thought the future held for art. Because this is something that is going to be changing quite a lot, what with new technological advancements. So we thought there was a great deal of potential for the narrative. So our idea for this documentary has evolved quite a lot. And we have landed on, yes, a much broader subject. So we just decided to focus in on 3 separate artists and get their take on art and where it's headed. I was also drawn to this documentary because of the potential I saw to experiment with the visual approach. As an art documentary, I wanted it to showcase art within filmmaking, a bit like the film we had in our references, Loving Vincent. One way I was planning on doing this was to create a timeline, almost a montage at the start of the documentary to show the history of art, with like stickers of different types of art throughout history building up. I think this would be effective because it would interest the audience, and it will also demonstrate to the audience how much art has been a part of human culture, and therefore hopefully get them thinking about the place it will have in the future. I chose graffiti because graffiti is very interesting. It started off as a taboo art form, and in certain cultures still is, but has now been accepted by most of the world, with designated graffiti areas being created. So this is a good example because maybe this will happen again in the future, and we'll see this happen with another art form. Here are our creative team bios, which give you a bit more information about projects we have worked on in the past and our different type of skill sets that we each have. It will also show you a bit of more information about what we did individually to contribute to this documentary. And that's it. Thank you for watching.